What's going on, YouTube Metal Complex here, and welcome to episode 30 of The Knife Guy. Episode 30 episodes. So I went back and looked at the playlist, and the playlist itself has like 1,400 views as of right now, but the individual episodes have anywhere from 800 to 1,500 views per episode. So call it 1,000 views an episode. This series is responsible for like 30,000 views on my channel. I know a lot of you guys are the same people coming back to watch over and over and over again. And basically what I'm saying is thank you. Thank you for making this series worth doing. I love it. You guys might notice something a little different. Let me do my usual intro. If you are new to my channel or you just came out of some weird corner of the internet and you have no idea where you are, who I am, or what you're watching, I am a knife guy. I'm a knife user, knife collector, enthusiast, a knife person, enjoyer of knives of many sorts. We are all in this part of the knife world. We're all knife guys and gals, and we all go down our own individual paths, but these paths intersect and we all experience a lot of the same stuff. That's essentially what this series is all about. I lay out a whole bunch of knives that are either mine or some of my generous viewers, knives that have been lent to me, and I like to just sort of pick them up and deploy them or flip them or whatever, and talk, give you guys something to listen to. So that's what this is. Now I want to talk about what I want to talk about before we start talking about the topic of the episode. Here recently, I stopped recording in 1080p. Oh, I'm sorry. I stopped recording at 60 frames per second to solve what I assume was the issue with the buffering wheel with a lot of people. And that seems to have fixed it with many people. So that's great. I decided to make another quality of life improvement, one that you guys might be noticing right now. And that's that I dimmed the lighting a little bit. I love the lighting. It was donated by Shaker MT. Actually, here's his Instagram. Guys, give him a follow. It's Shaker MT 1970 on Instagram. It was just really bright, and it's the position that I have it. So what I did is I've just put some paper over it and just dimmed it down a little bit. And the reason I did that is because I noticed when I was watching my channel on like a really big TV, I was like, wow, it's bright. And it was causing some flickering and some pixelation and stuff. Like it was little, and nobody has complained about it, but I saw it and I was like, I don't like that. And a lot of other channels, they're kind of the lighting's like less intense. So I just dimmed it down a little bit. You're going to hear me say that here because I pre-record a lot of my stuff. So here in like over the next 2 weeks, sort of speckled in, you're going to hear me say things on certain reviews like, I changed the lighting, what do you think? And it's because I pre-record like anywhere between 10 and 20 reviews, and then I made these changes amidst them. So the ordering might not make a whole lot of sense. You're still going to see videos of the old lighting for a little bit, and then sort of speckled in there, you're going to see the new lighting. But this is the first official, unless I decided to do a different video on this last Friday. This is one of the first, if not the first times you guys are going to see the lighting like this. So let me know what you think. Does it look better? Is it easier on the eyes? Is everything coming through clear and crisp? Is it less intense? Are you watching it on your phone? Are you watching it on your TV? Are you watching it on a big TV, little TV? I want to make sure that it is easy to view for everybody and that everybody's able to view it in the best definition that I can possibly do. So anyways, so what is the topic of today's video? So I was thinking a lot about this. I am fortunate enough to have friends like Jeff and Harry and Spirited Whiskey and Kyle that allow me to handle a lot of amazing knives, but they also gift me stuff. There's a lot of people that gift me knives. Absolutely. Justin the Hunter on Instagram actually gifted me this awesome Benchmade Super Freak, one that I'd said like this is like my favorite Benchmade knife, and I plan to get it, right? There were a lot of knives that I really like sort of lusted after and really wanted to get my hands on. I wanted to build the perfect bug out, and I did that. This titanium bug out that I've got here is my absolute favorite bug out of all time. And I love it now. I didn't used to like the bug out, but I love it. I sort of had this idea in my head that I needed to build the perfect Griptilian, and Hogue and Ritter sort of made that happen. I definitely have been chasing, you guys know my True Excalibur. I've been chasing the perfect folding knife for a while, and here recently I found it in the Gen 6 XM18 3.5 inch full thickness or standard thickness 165 thousandths slicer with a full titanium scale. So got that. I wanted to handle a Strider, and while I have not handled a real one, this one is certainly the SNG, the titanium ProTech SNG is certainly doing it for me. It was another gift from Jeff. Thank you very much. And then I knew as soon as the perfect Combat Troodon came along that I was going to pick it up, and I found it in this Hellhound Combat Troodon. And my point is that I realized a lot of the joy that I was getting, or after getting, obviously I love these knives. I love handling them, playing with them, and I'm very, very fortunate. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm like, oh, I'm not happy anymore. A lot of the joy is just the thinking about it, like it's sort of lusting after it, and it's sort of the chase, and I've touched on this on another video a little bit, but I want to transition this into my main point. We always have like the next thing, right? But I'm in a unique position where between my generous viewers and with the help of Jeff and Shaker and Spirited and Kyle, I don't feel very limited. At least in terms of getting a hold of something just to handle it, I don't feel very limited. I intentionally, at this point, I realized I'm intentionally lusting after a couple of things that are, number one, incredibly expensive, and number two, outside of my own personal purchase range, and knives that I will never be gifted and wouldn't want to be gifted, because I just want to have something out there that's keeping the fire burning for this, the passionate fire burning for this hobby. The Holt Spectre V3. I'm sure that I could, if I wanted to right now. There are a few knives in my collection that I could sell that I don't use very much, that were not gifts, like actually some of my knives. And I could use some additional funds, and I could probably find one on the secondary market. I probably would overpay for it, but I could scratch that itch if I wanted to. It would be a very expensive itch, but I could do it. Right? Does that mean that I should? I don't know. I kind of, the topic of this episode is I've realized after acquiring so many of these things, I kind of want to just want it. Does that make sense? Surely, Jeff and Spirited, you guys know, because like you guys acquire knives at a speed that's just, Kyle and Shaker definitely do too, but specifically, Whiskey and Jeff, you guys acquire, they're always sending me pictures of things, and they're like, look what I just bought, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's it like to acquire things that quickly? And that's cool. Power to them. They are able to do that. They've generated the funds required to live that life, and I think they should do what makes them happy, and I think that's cool. And without their drive, this channel would be a lot more boring, right? Another gift from Jeff, by the way, the Curtis ODT. I love this little thing. But surely, Jeff sent me a picture of a knife just the other day, and he's still considering buying it, and I won't ruin it just in case he decides not to. Very expensive knife, and I told him, I said, Jeff, that might be the most beautiful knife that I have ever seen. And Jeff could buy that thing in a heartbeat and not think twice about it. But I have to assume, Jeff, that despite your ability to just buy whatever you want, in a way, it kind of takes the fun out of it. So Jeff, I know, stops and makes himself think, like, do I really want this? Like, or do I just want to lust after it? I have to assume that Jeff thinks that way. And same with you, Spirited. I have to assume that you also think that way, because that's half the fun, at least. And in some cases, that's more than half the fun, right? Definitely. It's such a bizarre thing to think about, but it's the whole Christmas morning thing, especially when you're a little kid. And when I was younger, I'm 32. So when I was younger, like really young, we didn't have the internet. Oh my gosh, I sound old. When I was younger, we didn't have the internet. Ancient as a 32-year-old. What a bizarre feeling. Golly, I know, guys, I promise you we're going to get to this Jason Clark. This thing is just beautiful. Knives like this are why I toned the lighting down, so that you guys could get more color and less, just like beaming light. But anyways, We looked through those toy magazines, you know, those big thick booklets of the shopping magazines that you got 3 months before Christmas or 2 months before Christmas. You look through there, and my mom would give us markers, and she would say, circle some stuff that you want for Christmas. And we would always be like, we can have anything we want. And they'd be like, no, your dad and I are going to pick a couple of things out of there, but circle what you're looking at, and then, you know, maybe if you're good, you'll get stuff like that, right? So you circle all this stuff, and you get so excited because you don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff you want, right? And then you get to Christmas morning, and it could be anything under there, and it's kind of the same feeling. It's not exactly the same thing. It's not a perfect analogy, but it's just the anticipation of it, and then you get it, and you're like, yay! And then you play with it, and it's fun. And, you know, like, you sit on the couch with it, and you love it. And some knives have more of a potent feeling than others, but there's never anything that quite replicates the anticipation for the thing, right? I mean, my anticipation for the XM18 was built up from 2012 all the way up here until just recently when I acquired this. And, you know, in a way, I'm happy to have found it. I'm happy that my hunt for this guy is over. But another way, it's like, man, I miss that, and I'm going to have to apply it to something else. And right now, like, I mean, geez, like, Dalibor Bergam, a lot of the stuff that he makes, you know, I'm lusting after. I'll never be able to get my hands on something like that. But definitely the Spectre V3 is like my new thing. And I don't know that I will be buying one for I imagine at some point I would love to handle one. Somebody that's got, you know, one they want to lend me, I'll definitely take a look at it, show it on the channel. But I think I will continue to put off buying one until I have at least one more thing, one more knife that I can lust after just as much, and put it on that sort of, you know, I hate to imagine, it'd be my nightmare to imagine a scenario where I have everything that I want, and there's nothing else that I want. And, you know, I'm just like, yeah, of course, people are like, well, you should be thankful for what you have. Like, you have all these amazing things. You're lucky, you know, to have a channel that's attracted some amazing friends, and that people are so willing to lend you stuff. And I am ever so thankful. But I think you guys can agree with me that my worst nightmare, and it doesn't have to apply to knives, literally having every single thing that I could possibly want and not being able to, like, want anything else. I think I would rather want. I'm very thankful for the things that I have, things that I've been granted, and my appreciation for them is infinite. But I love this hobby, and a lot of what this hobby is for a lot of people is it's an itch, and we a lot of times we scratch it, and sometimes I just want the itch to just be there because it drives it drives my passion for this stuff, and then that comes out on camera, and I want that to be there because I don't ever want to have to fake it. And I think having everything, you know, acquiring everything would make me fake it. Now, different people come at this from different directions, but, you know, it's like most people are gonna go, yeah, you know, I know exactly what you're talking about. But to somebody who is like new and they have lusted after a few things and purchased them, hopefully that does continue forever. I mean, there's a whole nother side to this. It's like we talked about one time, like, be careful because it can get really unhealthy really quick. But in a lot of ways, you know, it's okay to just have that thing that you want and feel like, you know, you don't have to get it right now, or you can't get it, you know. Like, there are a lot of hyper expensive knives that I know that I'll never obtain that I just don't want. And, like, there are also knives that are expensive that I feel like I could obtain that I do want, but I'm just intentionally not doing it. Another example is a Crusader Forge FIFP. I would imagine that I probably could get my hands on one of those for a reasonable amount of money as far as custom knives go, but I'm kind of intentionally not doing it. And it's because of, you know, what happened with the Praetorian tie too. You know, the Praetorian tie, I really wanted, ever since I saw one of those on Jim Skelton's channel, I was like, oh my gosh, I want that so bad. It's so big and thick and chunky, and it's this big, crazy, overbuilt thing. And I got it, and I loved it, and it was amazing. But man, my love for that thing wore off quickly. And you guys remember, I sold it, you know? And I was like, there was this pit left in my stomach. I was like, is gone. You know, like 4 or 5 years of wanting that thing, and I got it, and it's over. It's like this whole experience that I was having, just like watching videos and letting it build up, just ended. And sometimes that needs to happen. Sometimes you just need to, if you're able to get it and you can financially justify it and you really want it, and go ahead, you know. But just, I suppose we all know that it ends, you know, after you get, and a lot of us who buy knives and then keep them, and actually, I'm talking about this from like an enthusiast perspective. You buy knives and then you use them and you resharpen them over and over and over again, then yeah, that love stays there. But what you're losing is the build up to the thing. A lot of people will just, you know, they'll see me review a knife. Let's use a budget knife, for example, the Bestech Paladin, and they'll go, that looks cool and it's inexpensive, and I'm going to go ahead and buy it. You know, there's not usually a build up to a knife like that. It's usually a Grail, you know. Grail knives can be anywhere from $200. I mean, just my thoughts. You know, a $200 knife, that's about where I think the word expensive starts to apply to most people. Yeah, sure, expensive can be $100. Expensive can be $1,000. It can be $5,000. Depends on who you are. But I feel like most people's definition of expensive in the knife world sort of starts around the $200 mark. And so for a lot of people, you know, some people are like, Grail knives can only be custom knives. Now, Grail knives, that's defined by the individual. So a Grail knife can be a $200 knife. So, you know, that sort of buildup, you know. If you just buy it immediately, then the buildup is just gone almost immediately, you know. And yeah, that's a lot. I mean, the argument can be made, well, if you wait too long, you may never get it, you know. And maybe that's the case, you know. It is sometimes. But I just feel like that sort of buildup is important. I experience it less and less and less, just being able, you know, I realized, I was like, I can make a video saying top 10 knives I want to review, and like 2/3 of them got checked off the list like immediately. And I was like, oh man, I kind of want to pump my brakes and just let some of these things be special, you know? I want the Holt Spectre to be special. Like, I want to get my hands on it and review it, but I just kind of want to just let it hang out in the ether of my mind and be special, you know? I feel like everybody can sort of grasp the point that I'm trying to make here. Let some things be special. Let the passion for this, if you're truly passionate about this hobby and you love it for one reason or another, just continue to let some things be special, you know. Obviously, I guess, you know, people like me, like everybody's financially limited in some way, you know. So I'm not specifically talking to people who have unlimited funds or people who have, you know, almost no funds. I'm not specifically talking to anybody. Whatever your desires are, whatever your financial limitations are, the things that are right there on the rim of it, or, you know, wherever they are, you know, within your financial parameters, it is a good idea, I think, to let some things just continue to be special. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's Knife Guy episode. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.